down and listen to records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on vinyl and vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 117. Today's very special guest is Matt McGuyer. Now, I don't have a lot of time in this introduction to describe what's going to happen here, but this is my conversation with Matt, who is the lead singer, primary lead singer and songwriter for the band Amblare. Matt is a very talented musician and has had a number of projects he's been part of. He's also part of the band Mock Orange, which he has recently joined. Very, very briefly touch on that at the end of this conversation. But he was here to discuss his new album by his new band called Amblare. They have a new album out on Melodic Virtue. It just came out on April 5th, I believe. And it's a great piece of music. And it is essentially being released in tribute to their late drummer, Bryan St. Pere, who was the drummer for the band Hum. It's a great album. If you are a fan of Hum, I would say that this is probably an album that you would want to look into. You can obviously stream it everywhere now, but it is also available on vinyl if you'd like to make a purchase. The links will be provided in the show notes. And this is a touching conversation, really. Matt's album of choice was Chavez's Ride the Fader, which I go into detail as far as how I kind of constructed this conversation or how I kind of constructed the topics we were going to be discussing. Obviously, we wanted to discuss the passing of Bryan and the content of the album, but also how it just worked out that the music in Ride the Fader, the lyrics specifically, touch on so many different things that pertained to the story of Amblare currently. So that's kind of essentially how this all goes down. But we get into the whole thing with, Matt's background, kind of where he grew up, how he grew up, his musical introduction, history, influences, all that stuff. So I'd just like to say thank you very much, folks, for tuning in. And if you like the show, all that we ask is that you please do all the things you do with the internet, like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things, please. They really, really help us. If you care to help us out in a financial way, which we can desperately use, everyone can, it seems, visit our website, psychicstatic.net. Make a purchase of anything. Sounds great. Be very helpful. Hammer Party has a new release out. Tiamat's Revenge, 7-inch vinyl single, is available now. Narnia's brand new double EP 12-inch vinyl record, Lathe Cut, is also currently in pre-order status. It should be shipping out very, very soon, like within the day or two. And their record release party is coming up in Providence. If you are local, come visit, come out, come support. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy. Hello, Matt McGuyer.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
There I am at the top. Okay.
There you are. Yeah, you sound good. It sounds like you're using an interface or something.
Yeah, I've got my interface and a good old SM7B. Can't go wrong.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It sounds like you know what you're doing.
I try my best to be doing the right thing.
I say the same.
Well, your voice sounds fantastic. If you need this closer, if you think this should be closer, let me know.
No, you sound good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, good level.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So did I get that right? McGuyer?
McGuyer, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. It's nice to meet you.
You as well. I've listened to a few of the podcasts to get familiar, and your voice is soothing, so it's welcoming. So
thank you, man. Buttery smooth is what I hear sometimes.
There you go. Velvety.
little sick, so I'm gonna cough every now and then.
Yeah. My respiratory is going crazy with the change of the season, so I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah. So I just want to kind of lay something out on you right here at the beginning, before I get into like the background history of you and your musical background, all that stuff. I want to acknowledge this album that you chose, Ride the Fader by Chavez. Lyrically, it seems to tackle like a lot of heavy topics. Does that sound right to you? Do you feel like that's accurate?
I'm a weirdo with lyrics that I hear all the drums and the guitars and the bass, almost in that order, they come through, and then the relation speaks more to me in syllables sometimes than actual words, which is weird because I always have to go back and read words. Like even as a kid, I couldn't hear plain lyrics. Like my brain just wouldn't hear that. It would only hear the interplay of music.
Sure.
So I have to go back and read lyrics, and I'm so terrible with remembering things that my favorite records of all time, I have to like, what's the name of that song again? That's like the one
Oh yeah.
after that one. So
Yeah.
what I do catch of it, it does seem as such. Yeah. What does
Okay.
I'm usually too wrapped up in how everything's working more than I am what it is, what personal truth may be being spoken at the time, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
mean, I'm going to dabble a little bit in the lyrics. I'm going to like, maybe reference some of them at some point.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, they are kind of like seems a little headier than
Hmm.
obvious, like if
Hmm.
you really read into them and so forth.
Hmm.
So for me, it just seemed like because I'm not familiar with this record, so you suggested it to talk about tonight, so I kind of dove in on the research, which I found to be very difficult.
Hmm.
I'm finding these to be more and more difficult with each one that I do.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think
Um,
there's a lot on Chavez out there. I mean, Matt Sweeney,
yeah,
he's really doing his thing, and you can usually catch him talking about all sorts of things. But Chavez itself, for me, was just a special thing anyway. That there's not a lot out there. I think the only thing I could really find of them talking about the recording of that record, that it was extremely difficult and trying for them to get takes and things like that, and performances maybe. But
yeah,
I think it was a frustrating record to make for them, and it was tough to pick this record because there's definitely records that are, I would say, more influential, but then again also more obvious. And I like this one because it's kind of like off the beaten path. You can go,
yeah,
hum and failure, obvious ones, and Smashing Pumpkins and things like that. But this is one that I think people wouldn't really expect. Maybe
sure, sure.
there maybe some people are like, Chavez, no telling.
You mean like comparing like what they
Yeah,
know about what
hearing
you
that
do?
influence come through in the music, those
Yeah,
types of
yeah.
things. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely an odd one. I like it. I
Mhm.
thank you for the choice because Chavez is actually one of those bands that I've been meaning to get into. It's like I know I've heard the name since the
Mhm.
90s
Mhm.
and I've seen it around and I was just like, "Oh, like that band sounds interesting." And
Yeah, yeah,
then I've never really listened to it. Their name would come up in conversation sometimes. I would see somebody with like a sticker of theirs be like, "Oh, you like them?" I don't know anything about them.
yeah, yeah. When I first heard them, I was, and I'm a weird fan of music and musician, that I'm not crazed with finding everything I can to listen to. I just like the organic, how you're just living your life and music comes in and out more than I do
Sure.
going after it thirsty. So when I first caught Chavez, the funniest part is that it was Beavis and Butthead, because they had their song "Break Up Your Band" was on Beavis and Butthead. It was a
Yeah.
wild 70s ish throwback, striptease video, and Beavis and Butthead making fun of it. But when the music would come through, I remember I first heard the sound that is Chavez come through, and I mean, my eyes were as big as dinner plates. I'm like, oh, that's something. And then I just never went after it. And then
Yeah.
fast forward years later, living in Houston, Texas, and it was about 98, 99 ish. And I'm running an errand for work in a work truck. And I have the local, that end of Houston's, whichever college radio on, I just kind of threw on something that sounds like my kind of station. And then You Must Be Stopped came on, that
Mm.
big
Okay.
detune, that closing song of this record. And they said, I actually called the station, hey, if you got any questions, give us a call, type of thing. I was like, who was that? Like, oh, that's Chavez off the record Ride the Fader. And I was like, okay. And I went and bought it that day. And Downward as Heavenward Hum was in my CD player for about a year because I obsessed like that. I can't jump around a lot. And
Mhm.
I pulled that out, and Chavez went right back in for the next year. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
yeah, it was a
Cool.
really interesting way to find them and finally hear them myself. So, of
Yeah.
course, and the records look cool. I love the art and the packaging and whatnot, how they do everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna get there.
Hmm.
But so as I was saying about this album, I mean, it's so like, I was just afraid that this conversation might take some dark turns
Hmm.
because, I reference lyrics a lot and considering the situation that you're coming from with Amblare and the new release of your record,
Hmm.
so I just wanted to kind of make sure, like, if I pry, by all means, like, tell me, hey, I don't want to go down this route. This is not something I would feel comfortable talking about.
I'm a pretty open book. I'm not. I'm unabashed about being honest and dark places and weird thoughts, and and
Okay.
I love going down rabbit holes. So no, I mean, whatever feels right to ask on your end, I'm happy to answer. No, bring it on.
Okay.
I think the only thing that we wouldn't really want to get on is the actual passing of our friend and bandmate. But aside from that, absolutely, man, ask away, because I'm
Okay.
a heady dude by nature. I'm lost in the myriad of the hallways of thoughts in my brains always. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No,
I'm a
that's
pretty
fine.
dark person.
Yeah, I can be that way too. I mean, like typically I'm a fairly little depressed. I'm a
Me too.
depressive,
Me too.
so I tend to try to make comedy out of it, try to you know make fun of it in at
Absolutely.
times.
Yeah, I do the same.
Um, but I just wanted to just get that out there just so I know kind of where we stand,
Yeah.
because I don't want to say anything, kind of out of turn,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yeah, ask away. And if it's something I don't feel comfortable, I'll let you know. But I'm always down for just about anything. So
Okay. All
yeah,
right. Sounds great, man.
cool.
Well, so then let's go back to the beginning then. So,
Okay.
born and raised, where was that?
Evansville, Indiana, on the very southwestern tip of the state, right across the bridge from Kentucky.
Oh, okay. And are you there now?
I am here now. Yes, I've tried to leave. There's always a joke in Evansville that if you're from here and you try to leave, you'll be back.
Well, I live in Rhode Island. Our state, not emblem, but our state image is the anchor, and so yeah, that's our joke too. Is that if you when you're here, it's like you're just anchored to this place. There's no leaving.
Yeah, this one's. I always joke. It's like you got a bungee cord connected to it, and you go and get that bungee cord tight, and it snaps you right back. Like, oh, I gotta go home. So I've
Yeah.
left. I think I've left 3 times.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I tried myself, and here I am.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I've always wanted to
born.
come up there. So very cool. You're from up there.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
if by chance you start doing some touring, I mean, look me
I'd
up.
love to. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So growing up in the house, what was that like?
Um, I was raised by a 42-year career school teacher and my mom, and I have 3 older sisters.
Okay.
And my dad is a musician, and he probably started playing when he was about 16, and had some success with the band in the late 60s and early 70s, doing like a psych rock 3-piece.
Hmm.
And they've just had their record pressed by a label. And he opened for all the greats at that time: Mountain and Santana and the Ohio Players and Mott the Hoople, Vanilla Fudge, just Mountain, all the
Oh,
great
wow.
bands at that time. Yeah, and
Cool.
they did like a 4-day tour, a little run with 10 Years After, and played a lot of arenas, stadiums back then, which was cool.
Wow.
So it's been, Beatles fan. He still has his very first Beatles vinyl, the very first release that ever hit the US. He still has his that he bought when he was, a teenager.
Oh, cool.
So he's a lifelong musician. He's 78. He's still rocking. And
Cool.
guitar player, singer by trade, can play piano, can do little drums, but very, very talented dude.
Hmm.
And he once he had my third sister before I was born, he kind of got out of it, quit playing, raised a family, school teacher. He would play on the weekends and then go right back to the classroom when he was, doing original music. But then he
Hmm.
stopped, sold all his gear, and bought a really big stereo and got into stereo equipment. So from the time I was born, a giant stereo that would rattle our bi-level house, was in the basement in a room, and his buddies would come over and they'd bring records, and sometimes I get to go in there and sit with them. They shut all the lights off and all the lights would dance, so
Nice.
always watching music. Like I remember the first time I watched The Kids Are All Right, The Who, which that kind of changed my life. Really, that imprinted me big time, because
Hmm.
you just that unknowing, that provocative danger of, okay, they're going to trash their stuff. You never know what's going to come, what's going to happen with these guys. I like this. I'm a little bitty, I was born in 77. And
Right.
my mom in high school played upright bass in orchestra. She played lead snare in marching band, saxophone marching band,
Hmm.
accordion, piano. My dad's dad played drums in jazz bands. My uncle actually jammed with my dad, and they had a band. He played drums. So
Wow.
it is, as I always say, from one of my favorite movies, it came with the frame. I just kind of, the minute music hit my ears I mean, I can even remember back to 1 and 2 years old, sitting on an end table downstairs in the family room, seeing Peter Criss and air drumming along, and my dad taking note, you know.
Yeah.
And so I grew up around just music, and I remember, you know, Rush and every great band that's ever been important: Beatles, Rush, Stones, you know, Van Halen, Judas Priest, AC/DC, Iron Maiden. That was my childhood from
Mm.
him. Even Kraftwerk, he was a big Kraftwerk fan back then, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then growing up, I got into hair metal, you know, as a from kindergarten on. I was Kiss, and then, you know, I think Poison by the time I was fourth or fifth grade or whatever. And then when I heard Metallica the summer of fifth grade, heard Kill 'Em All, and of course that, well, what's that? And then I found Anthrax later, found DRI. But I started drumming at a very young age. My dad was a school teacher, and being a musician, he would always be in the band room, you know, doing something, hanging out with the music kids, and they had a drum kit in there. And if they were doing anything and I could get to that room, I would go play drums. From about 4 and 5 years, I'd sit at this old Tama kit in there and play loud. They could hear me. They had to stop a program one time out in the auditorium because they could hear me playing drums. So really loud. And I just, man, the minute I touched a drum kit, it just, you know, that's the thing. You know, I played a little guitar when I was little.
Yeah.
The first thing I learned was Iron Man by ear. I figured out a power chord when I was about 5, and then actually did drop D because I understood the transposing of the notes to open to. So I tried drop D when I was little, and I brought Iron Man
Really?
down an octave, down, you know, and played the whole thing.
At
And
5, huh?
yeah.
That's pretty advanced.
Well, my dad had bought a guitar when I was little, about 2. I mean, he wanted an excuse to get another one, I'm sure.
Sure.
And he got a Memphis Les Paul copy from a friend of a family for like $50, I think. And so he was like, I'll get him a guitar first, because he could tell that I was all about music. So
Yeah.
got a guitar and an old Harmony amp and his old Big Muff Pi. I'd plug into that, plug it all up, and, you know, learned Iron Man. And that's as far as it got. It was like, okay, my hands aren't big enough to get further than this basic thing, you know?
Right.
And so I stopped guitar. And then drums, I got my first kit when I was 6 years old. Actually, the summer I turned 6, it was my 6th birthday.
Okay.
And I got my first real drum set, and we played Johnny B.
Lifelong musician then. I mean,
Yeah,
so
just,
obviously you come from a long lineage of like musicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not even just like, you know, your average run of the mill, like, you know, maybe classically trained or something along those lines, but like people that were obviously interested in like rock music too.
Yeah, my dad's a rock and roll. The first thing he taught me was like, rock and roll goes like this. Bass drum being the boom, 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 crack. And then we come in. He goes, that's how you count it off. It's like, all right, Dad, cool. You know, he'd tell me, the smaller the kit that you can rock on, the more impressive it is, you know, those kinds of things. So I wanted the big drum set, you know. He's like, nah. Take another tom off and try, you know, a 4-piece. And you know, so I did. You know, I think the first stuff I played Johnny Be Good when I was 6, and I learned, just played by ear, because he grabbed the guitar that we had that he got for me and started playing Purple Haze. Well, from hearing Purple Haze over his stairs, like, oh, I know this. So I'm 7, 8 years old playing Purple Haze. I could do the da 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 and Rush, the big drum break, when I was about 9 or 10. I was playing that. So I just kind of, I played all the time. I was obsessed with it. I mean, I played all day. My mom and dad, you know, loving household, 3 older sisters at each other for whatever. So I just disappear into my room, play drums, you know. And so I come home from school, 2 hours, take a break, come back, play another 2 hours. So for 14 years, from the time I got my first kit at 6, all the way up till 14, I didn't start playing with other people other than my dad till 14. But between that time, I did talent shows and just played and just played drums all the time. I want to be as good as what I hear. So I'm not done until I hit that mark, you know. But I've always been loud and breaking things, and just born to rock, man.
Yeah. So I see that. So so obviously you were exposed to a lot of like really great influential music as a young person. But what was like your first record that you bought for yourself?
My first record that I wanted, that I asked for, I was 5 years old, and I rode on the back of my dad's bike. We had the kids' seat down to Target to get Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. I had to have that 45 because I just thought that was a great, that and My Sharona. Those were yeah, exactly. And Billy Squier, and I was really into that when I was that age. But the first record was Kim Carnes.
That's crazy. I think I have all 3 of those records in my house right now.
Yes. Right on.
Well,
I love it.
I'm a record seller, so I got a lot of
Mm,
records. I got a room
mhm.
full of records right now. It's kind of ridiculous. I
Oh,
can barely walk in it.
that's a beautiful thing.
Except when you're like, how do I get these sold? And because
Right.
I'm like literally tripping over myself, like on the records. I'm just like, oh, I got to get these fucking things sold, man. I got to
Yeah.
get these
Yeah.
out of here.
Hell yeah.
Can't move.
Yeah.
Um, but so now so you said 14 was like when you start playing with people. So like, what was your first band?
My first band, I kind of dipped toes. I tried out for a thrash band first, and I think we had one jam, and then got with some local guys, some buddies of buddies, and they're like, "Hey, that kid can rock," because I've always, being as young as I always had to play with people older than me, because
Hmm.
kids my age weren't rocking yet, So I was
Sure.
playing with 18 and 19-year-olds and 22 and 23-year-olds at 15.
Hmm.
And so my first band was Wicked Grace, metal band.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
our guitar player played the big BC Rich funny shaped guitar and the whole thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were at the, at that age, you try to do some covers. I think we had one original and we played, a Skid Row song and, like a Metallica song, a couple of those. So pretty
Sure.
run of the mill, for a rock and roller.
Yeah, for metal band specifically
Hmm.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. But Wicked
So
Grace.
you're so advanced. Like that's the thing. Is just like it's pretty wild that like I mean like I've been playing out since I was 15 too.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
mean I think that you have a significant advantage over me because you started so young.
Hmm.
Um, so 14, 15, you're starting to play heavy metal, starting to play with some people
I
older
got
than you.
the double bass drum set showed up. That was my second drum set.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. So
that was
you
a big thing for me, was to not have that kit I had from 6 to 14. I played the same drum set. It's duct taped and everything's broken. So when
right.
the summer of my 15th birthday, before I became a freshman, I got the big metal drum kit, two bass drums, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my dad put it in layaway, paid on it for like a year and a half. They were really nice to him and let him. He's a school teacher. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. We just scraped by like anybody else,
Sure.
and so he would, he they'd always supported me. So I was always have what I needed. So when I got that bass drum, double bass set, I was like, now I can go out and play with other people because I don't have this embarrassing, drum set or whatever. It's
Right.
only silly, but that's why you think when you're little.
Yeah, yeah. No, you definitely want the flash when you're little,
Mhm.
I
Yeah. Oh
mean,
yeah. Yeah.
but so you no, so you're a drummer or
Mhm.
like that was your primary instrument?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, but you are doing guitar and vocals for Amblare, right?
Yeah. I picked up guitar. I started to do guitar again when I was about 10, 11 years old. My dad was out playing on our deck out back, and he hands me the guitar. Hey, let me show me something, Dad. So he shows me the classic 12-bar blues and show me how to do that. And then from there, my hands had gotten bigger. I didn't feel intimidated by the fretboard at that point.
Hmm.
So I plucked around. And then I want to say I was probably between 13 and 15 when I really went after it, though, and started playing a lot more. And I started just learning stuff by ear. I've always
Okay.
done everything by ear. I was only ever taught how to play 16th notes on the hi-hat. That's the only I've ever really shown. And so since I already knew drop D anyway, I remember doing it when I was a lot littler. And so I figured out that Tool was in drop D, and I learned Undertow by Tool from the beginning to the end, every riff I could and everything. And I learned White Zombie, Los Exorcisto by ear because I just thought that was a great record. And I learned
Hmm.
Prong, Cleansing by ear because I figured out I could drop my A to G and then my D to C and get this weird drop C. And then I learned all of Cleansing by Prong by ear, and that's just kind of took my time learning other people's
Oh,
stuff.
weird. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
when is that happening? Because that sounds like that's the transition point.
About 14, 15, 16.
Okay.
I was about 15 was really when everything started flipping over from just playing at home with dad, playing drums only. 15 is when I started to get more adventurous with it and learning stuff and playing a lot of guitar.
Right.
And when I was a kid, when I played drums, I didn't play along to anything. I would just, just have this riff in my head, and I just would play drums to whatever I heard in my head. So it was just like,
Hmm.
I never realized as a kid that I was making up my own songs for something to play drums to. I just was trying to play drums. Well, I got to hear something to play. So my brain would just give me riffs, and I'd make a beat. Sometimes I'd make a beat and the riff sound would hit me in my head, and I would just work it
Yeah.
out and play drums. So when I
Okay.
got to learning, tool really influenced me a lot. I don't know. It's because I never sat down and became a virtuoso, a soloist about it. I like big, I heard what I liked and figured out how to do that, which is pretty simple stuff, more open chording with maybe two fretted notes and a lot of open strings. And so the more blocky, melodically in the riff and rhythms things are, the more it's like, oh, I can adapt, I can play more rhythms than having this chord knowledge. Like it's funny if you watch me try to play traditional chords, I struggle with it. My fingers won't do it.
Oh,
It
okay.
takes me a long time to get comfortable because part of the reason is I don't have slender fingers. I have big fat drummer fingers from holding a stick since I was little.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that gets in the way.
Hmm.
So I never thought I was that great of a guitar player. I was like, I'm just going to do the best I can with what I hear. And so at
Right.
about 17, I graduated high school, moved with some friends, a band I was in. I was in a improv funk band, and we moved up to Bloomington. I moved away from home for the first time, and we had a 4-track recorder. And so I was really into Mr. Bungle. So I took the time and I learned My Ass Is on Fire by Mr. Bungle, figured
Hmm.
out the bass slapping technique because I play with a guy who slaps. So that's how I learned how to play bass. I've always learned by watching other people. Oh, that's how you do that, and then figure it out. And my dad had bought a bass to play around with, so I started playing bass at about that was 16 years old. I started playing bass,
Hmm.
and so I
Okay.
figured out slap, and then I figured out how to play My Ass Is on Fire. I was like, well, what if I can record that myself and just do everything? So I sat at the drums and I played the song off my top of my head, no click or anything, just into a 4-track, like one room mic, just to try it out. Maybe a kick and an overhead, I think I did. Yeah, and the kick and overhead, one guitar, one bass, and we
Oh,
had a jam
okay.
room, so I had a free space to do this. So then I did my little cover of My Ass Is on Fire by Mr. Bungle, and then I was hooked. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like I could do
Yeah.
this all the time. And then I
Right.
started writing, moved home, started writing stuff, and got a 4-track from a buddy, and then ran my drums into a keep bumping my mic, ran my drums into a 8-channel mixer, and then the main out of that into the 4-track. So that was my perfect my drum mix, listen to it over and over till it was right, work it out on the board, record drums, and I'd start recording originals by laying 2 guitars and bass on top with 4 tracks.
Oh, okay. So you've been writing for a long time now.
Yeah, quite a while. Yeah.
Okay.
I started writing mainly because when you're a drummer, at least the age I was, if people got bored with it or something wasn't going well, I'm just the drummer and I got to find another band when nobody wants to get along or whatever. So I was band to band trying to learn the dynamic of what everyone's doing, I guess, as a young kid.
Hmm.
And then eventually I went on tour after high school and toured with a band for about a year. And I lived in Nashville. And at that time, things were going extremely well. Like it was really going to get good. And the band, one guy was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we were right on the cusp of the thing, about to,
Yeah.
we had some good interest. And he was like, I don't want to do this anymore when we were literally going to do pre-production for a big record.
Hmm.
And so that just kind of changed me because I felt like I couldn't rely on a band. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why don't I figure out how to do this myself and write my own stuff and head my own band and find somebody to drum.
Right.
So after that, when I moved home, that's when I really started compiling material. And my first band I fronted, jammed with some people, moved away. That's a whole big blur there. And when I came back home, I put some friends together and was like, I got these songs I've been working on while I lived in Texas. And I wrote a bunch of tunes. And that was my first thing. And it was a 3-piece.
Huh.
And
Okay.
I have a thing for power trios. I dig power trios. There's something
Sure.
about three guys making it happen.
Yeah.
So
That's the minimum. Well, I mean, 2-piece is the minimum, really, but I mean, I think
yeah,
three
yeah.
piece really rounds it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
so I did that. And that was finally had started fronting a band. And that was just one big giant learning experience, like, oh, okay, time to hone this craft, of fronting a band, singing, writing, all
Oh,
the
okay.
melodic interchange and all that. So
So you have a lot of experience being the front person. It's not like this is
yeah, pretty
like
good.
Amblare is the first time you're stepping out from behind the kit.
Yeah, it's not the first time. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
okay.
and I've
Yeah.
I've sat in with bands playing bass on stage and I've played just been a lead guitar player in other bands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've definitely dabbled and trying. Just I've always wanted to be able to do everything. When I was 9 years old, I saw a dude, and I wish I could remember his name, but he was this really well dressed man with a nice hat and a leather jacket. He was he was rocking. And it was a PBS special, and he wrote and recorded music for skate videos, for
Huh.
skateboarding videos, like kind
Okay.
of like punk metal kind of thing, kind of like Living Color almost, but a little bit more punk edge to it. And he would play the drums first, and then he would lay the bass down. He would record guitars, and he did it all by himself. And I saw that happen. It's like, that's my dream. I want to, do everything. I'm gonna see if I can do everything myself. Just why not?
Right. Yeah. Of course.
That has always been in my head. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so now, how did you get to Houston, so that you could hear Chavez on the radio?
Mm. I met my first wife on the internet in 1996.
Oh, you
And
are like
I'm,
an innovator, like from the beginning, huh? Like you're
yeah,
first for many things.
yeah. And moved to Texas in May of 97. I moved down to Houston, Texas to, we had visited whatnot. And she came up here. I went down there. She came back up here, and then I moved down there. And I lived there from 90, like I said, May of 97 until literally December 31st, 1999. I moved home on New Year's Eve. And I was like,
Okay.
well, if Y2K is going to pop off, I don't want to be stuck in Houston, not knowing what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
Wanted to get it. We got married, wanted to get a house, wanted to, work towards growing up, get a place of our own. So the answer was, move home.
Right. Right.
This is expensive down there. So then I came home in 2000. So.
Okay. But in that time, you're working this job and you hear Chavez on the radio. So,
Mhm.
and then that's when you buy the record. Did you buy it on
Mhm.
vinyl by chance? Or you buy it CD?
CD. I wish I
CD.
bought vinyl. Yeah, but back then vinyl wasn't hitting.
Yeah, it might not even have even come out on vinyl at that time,
Yeah,
maybe.
people were putting it out, but it wasn't a market like it was and then is now.
Right. Yeah, actually, no, I think probably did press some copies of that at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have it
Yeah.
now? Do you have a copy?
I don't, and that's because I'd love to have that and Gone Glimmering. Both of the records are just amazing records. I need to
Yeah.
do that. That needs to. That's on my list. I went buck wild for about a year and was spending some gig money I was making doing a thing at a bar. I was like, I'm spending all this on records, so I probably spent $2,000 on records, in a very short period of time. And
Yeah.
honestly, I need a new turntable. I feel like you don't need to buy more, because it's hard. It's what do you do with your money when you work 40 hours a week and you got two kids and you're a drummer and you're a guitar player and you record and you play bass, and
Yeah.
you like cars and you have a house. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, which of the 30 slots that need money do I put my money in? And records usually like down at the bottom,
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to go crazy myself. I only buy myself like one or two. I don't know. Maybe I average one a month, maybe,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because they're pretty expensive these days, So,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
agree with you. I'm in the same boat as you, man. I've got two kids. I got a, wife, family, house, cars, shit, just shit
Mm-hmm.
on shit.
Shit on shit on shit. Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it becomes hard, man. But so now you heard it on the radio and you bought
Mm-hmm.
it. Obviously, you obsessed over it. Why choose that record to talk about tonight?
That record pried my brain open in a way. I guess it wasn't like anything I love something that sounds like something I've never heard. I really like something fresh. If you give me six bands that all sound like this one band I already like, they won't hit me as hard. It's just a weird thing for me. So
Yeah,
with
sure.
them, I loved how they were detuned, the tone, the guitar tone, the sound of the drums, the way they sounded, and I have a thing for. I love contrast, and so I love that you have these nasty, nasty guitars, this bombastic drum beat on "Must Be Stopped," the way he dances around everybody, the nasty riff, and then there's this beautiful
Right.
vocal, and falsetto. Like I love a heavy guitar and a female voice just singing as pretty as it can. There's something about that is always. That's why hum hit me. I was like, you have this mellow, characteristic vocal that isn't. Oh yeah, it's just so real, explaining real things while the band is splitting the record, the earth in half. You know what I mean? I love that weird passive aggressive thing in music. It's exciting for me. So when I heard really got to hear them because I hadn't heard much by way of the little glimpses that you get through Beavis and Butthead, being Beavis and Butthead. So when I heard Must Be Stopped, it took me. And then when I opened the record and you get the roller coaster in the beginning, it's so fitting. And it
Right.
breaks into that opening song. And the way they work, there's so many things, the way they work tension and release, the interplay of everything is just like nothing I'd ever heard. So I fell in love with it because I like exciting music. I like mellow music, but I side with things that rock your face off,
Sure.
I love a drummer. I've never heard a drummer drum like James, right? Is his name?
James Lowe. Yeah.
James Lowe. Yeah. I never heard a drummer drum like that, and never heard a detuned guitar and A doing that much discordance. So you have this drive, you have beauty from the vocal, you have uncomfortable, sticky, melodic, funky high guitars, so there's this wild amalgamation that no band, in my opinion, has ever sounded like that or ever will. I mean, it's just truly one of a kind. And I'm a sucker for something that is for that type of thing. I don't have the greatest well of music knowledge. I just know what I like, and I really like anything that sounds like nothing I've ever heard. I want the envelope.
I would probably dispute with
envelope.
You.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, based on what you're telling me, I mean, you've been exposed to so much music, from a very young age till obviously now around this time that you're talking about your, late teen, early 20s, actually, probably, right? 98.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually just turning 20. Yeah. 97 and 98. Yeah, I was 98. So yeah, 21-ish. Yeah, 22.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you've been playing, you've been playing in bands, playing in metal bands, playing in funk bands, like, yeah, I'd say you probably had a pretty wide array of like, interests and stuff like that. So, but you're right. Chavez, critics have definitely said that, from the research that I've done and the reading I've done, critics have definitely will agree. No band at the time that this band was happening sounded like them. They were pretty unique. They had elements. They had elements of what was popular at the time. I mean, like, they can fall into that kind of like emo-ish category. They can fall into the, post-punk category. A lot of people say math rock, and I don't really agree with that very much.
Yeah, I don't jive with math. It's not very mathy, but it's more jazz than it's math.
Yeah.
There's jazz happening, not so much math. It's a freedom, not a calculation sometimes,
Right,
sometimes.
right. Yeah, there's some weird like time change things that happen, but I think that's the only thing that sounds, math orientated. So
just a hell of a drummer, a really great drummer and a bass player that knows when. He how he holds back in that opening track and then and that takes off. Just, man, I get excited when I listen to it, and I howl, woo, if I'm alone and I'm really got it cranked, it gets me going like that. It just hits me so deep. Yeah.
All right. Well, then that makes sense this would be the choice for you.
So I should say too, along with my dad's music, my sisters had a lot of music bleeding in. It is worth mentioning that my sisters were pretty hip chicks. They were into Pixies and Sugar Cubes and Violent Femmes and the Smiths and The Cure. That's how I got Jane's Addiction and Susie and the Banshees and Smashing Pumpkins. All that came from my sisters because they
So they turned you on to the alternative nation thing.
Absolutely. I remember the first Lollapalooza and them begging my parents to go. And, Mom, you're not going to a concert. And, and I mean, they made their own skirts and, they were cool chicks, So I'm ever thankful for the influence that was the music they put because they showed me, the weirder side, which far more interesting. Pixies, my sister bought every Pixies record the day they came out. She was, my oldest sister was kind of like, oh, hey, everybody, hey siblings, here's what's really happening in music, but downstairs his dad with, AC/DC cranked, flicking the switch,
nothing wrong with either of those, really.
Yeah. So I got to have a taste of everything. So I enjoyed the freedom in the music they listened to and then the breaking away from conventional rock music. So to have, it's really kind of why I am the way I am, because you have John Bonham and Keith Moon and Mitch Mitchell alongside, Jimmy Chamberlain. And I think The Cure had a fantastically great drummer and all these just different, it's two worlds coming in, interesting melodies over standard rock melodies. And just, it's a weird So I love huge beats with, all sorts of smatterings of melodies and uncomfortable notes and rhythms. And, I
Sure.
like rules being broken and envelopes being pushed as much as possible, if
Yeah, and that
always.
comes through. That comes through on your record. I mean, Amblare is the only record that I know of yours at the moment. I mean, I know that you've been in
That's
other bands, but I don't know if you have any other recordings out from any of those bands.
no, nothing ever. I could never get something over the hump. And
Yeah,
it's part of that's my own fault because I'm hard to work with. I mean, I understand arrangement and release intention and songwriting. So it's, I have a lot of ideas always. So when people are like, well, I don't know what to do, I'm like, okay, what if you do this? And what if you do that? And then, oh, wait, then we cut that and do that, I love that whole, just getting in there and throwing wires around, so to speak, mad scientist of it. And like,
yeah,
what can we do? What can't we do? Let's try everything. And it's a bit much because I get really excited like a little kid with it still, even at 46. I just get pumped to
yeah.
be making music. I'm
Sure.
enthusiastic to a default, or
Right,
to a
right.
detriment sometimes.
Well, so
So,
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, like, so how did Amblare come to be even?
well, I've always kept writing, and eventually I went from a 4-track to in Houston. I bought an 8-track Tascam machine and started recording on that, was able to do more things, and it had more EQ options, and figured out the sonics in that. And then I bought a digital 8-track, like a Zoom thing that has, guitar tones and direct things in it. And
Mhm.
it's got 8 XLR, so I can run 8 tracks of drums.
Sure.
And so got one of those. And then that's really when my writing kicked off, was when I got that machine, because I could just hang out in my room and record song after song. Like if I have an idea, even if I'm not playing an instrument when that idea hits, I can just go in a room and record. It was about 2013, 2014 when I bought this house I'm in now. And my wife let me have a room all to myself. We gave up a room just so I could have room to put everything in. So
Oh,
pretty
that's
awesome
sweet.
there. Yeah, she's insanely supportive,
That's
big
good.
time. Yeah. And so I started recording, and my life changed a lot, and I lost contact with a lot of people. So my naturally depressive outlook and state really kind of took over. And I just worked and came home and didn't see a lot of people. My second child came, and I'm a firm believer in being there. I don't want to miss a thing. You only get
Yeah.
18 years one time. So I'm very involved with my kids. So I was like, I'll just hold up. And while being depressed, it's this weird two-way street where I'm miserable in a certain way, but then all this beauty is happening with, my new daughter,
Yeah.
who just blew my mind all over again after my first one. And so I just recorded, went to work, and hung out with my kids, and I started writing. I had always told myself, it was when I hit my 20s, it was hard for me because then I was just another guy. I wasn't that little kid who could, you know, play whatever song you want to hear at the drop of a hat. I play me something, I could play it. When I was 15, there wasn't really anything I couldn't play. I mean, I could play anything I heard and do
Sure.
well at it. And so when I hit my 20s, I was like, well, now I'm just another guy. Like there's it's not that big of a deal. But people would still come up. Oh, you remind me of this drummer, and oh, great show. And people would stop me to be complimentary, which still always is mind blowing that people take the time to want to say that stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, I heard someone say, I wish I could remember who it was, but they're like, people will go to see a band for a lot of reasons, hear your favorite song and whatnot. But the biggest thing that people get impacted by is the artist's relationship to their instrument. That's what you're there to see, what they are when they're playing their instrument, like
Hmm.
that. There's a transcendence that comes out, or something that when you watch someone playing an instrument, it just speaks to you in a certain way. That's the big takeaway that's what people want to see, supposedly. So I
Yeah.
have an interesting relationship with my instrument that I just beat the living tar out of it. But it's but and I don't ever pat myself on the back, but I can play some drums, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
people like to watch it. So I still do it.
Right.
Um, I forgot where I was going with all this, but
Well, I want to share some things with you because I want to start getting into this album a little bit. But before I
mhm.
do that,
Oh, you
like
asked
I
me
was,
how Amblare came along. I didn't even answer your question.
that's okay. I'm gonna go into that a little
Okay.
further with
Okay, cool.
this.
Cool.
So
Sorry.
like now I told you it was there's been this research was very hard,
Mhm.
very difficult to find a lot of stuff about this record. So of the few things that I've been able to learn about this band, I did hear Matt Sweeney speak of the way the band ultimately came to begin.
Mhm.
So Clay Tarver, who's the second guitarist,
Hmm.
was in that band, Bullet La Volta.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So, which Matt did some roadieing for.
Hmm.
And then they went out one night to do this live band karaoke thing, and attempted to sing Bridge Over Troubled Water. And so when they were done, like Clay basically came up to Matt and said, like, we should start a band.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's how it came to be, basically. You know, they kind of took off from there and got
Hmm.
together more often and started writing music and all that shit.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So my question is to you, how did you come to befriend and ultimately end up working with Bryan St. Pierre?
Okay, so I kept at it. I kept writing. I was like,
Yep.
this is worth doing. I'm going to keep going. And okay, I should put myself out there then. If people enjoy seeing me live, then maybe I should play the social media game, which I think it's weird, but I
Hmm.
try to play the social media game. It feels unnatural. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
video editing and getting their sounds and perform whatever, everything that goes into it. And so I kind of would, some shots of my screen with the doll that probably don't sound that great. I would post that on I made a music page on Facebook, just McG, MC-G. It's still there. I can't get in it, but it's still there. And I posted, I was like, okay, well, I'll record myself playing drums with my phone and maybe I can put a video together with iMovie or something. So I
Hmm.
started making these movies between about 2016-ish. And I started just trying to put myself out there going, hey, I'm not active in bands anymore, but here's what I'm doing. Here's my music. And so I just was putting it out there. I think I put out 5 or 6, 7 videos or something. And then I had met Bryan because Bryan moved here. He actually moved. The funny thing is, him and I moved. He moved to Evansville the same week that I moved back to Evansville, like within the same time period, like right at the turn of 2000. He moved to Evansville from Champaign. I believe it was from Champaign. I don't know where he was before, whether it was Chicago or Champaign. So he was here, and I had just moved home. And whoa, somebody told me, hey, Hum's drummer moved here because they knew I was a fan of the band.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy cool. Man, how neat would it be to have that guy play drums? Because when I heard him play drums, I had a very deep, and I do with that band, I have a deep identification with that band where they just hit me on a level that, touches my soul or whatever. Like, it's like I know it already. Like I had heard it before. When I heard the first time, my brother-in-law goes, you write stuff that sounds like this band. And Audrey, my first wife, she's like, yeah, you need to play him Hum. Play him Hum. And so he plays me Hum. And I had always wanted to have a band. In high school, a lot the people I played in a band with, they loved My Bloody Valentine. So I got turned on to My Bloody Valentine when I was a teenager.
Hmm.
And I loved it, but I wasn't like blown away because I like drums. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And the drums are very, not the point on that record. And I was like, what would My Bloody Valentine be like if they had just massive drum sounds, like a Zeppelin drum sound, and still, the pretty singing, and the guitars were just a little nastier, a
Hmm.
little heavier. So when
Sure.
I heard Hum, I was like, oh,
There it is.
there it is. Like, oh, holy shit, this is great. Like, and then I was really obsessed. That's all I would listen to, was You Prefer an Astronaut, for a good while, till Downward Is Heavenward came out.
Yeah.
And so that, made it okay to be the drummer I wanted. I was like, oh, I can be loud, I can hit as hard as I want and be acrobatic with it, do a crazy fill, and do. There was a comedian one time that made fun of drummers and went doopa 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 doopa, and I was like, well, that's one of my main fills, man. Like the flam is the thing, the flam and kick, and so that was in my that's so when I heard he was here, I was like, well, that'd be great, because I write that way, and who would be because I couldn't find a drummer here that liked what I liked and wanted to play with presence and power. There wasn't a lot of heavy hitters just slinging a big pocket and big drum, like arena rock drums, as they call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he ended up playing with some friends of mine, a couple of bands eventually, and we did a show with them. And I got to meet him at a show, and I was like, hey, man. And so we talked drums. He's twirling drumsticks, walking around my drum kit going, nice kit, and he's getting his kit ready, and we got our kit set up. And so I had met him met him a few times through those friends of mine, and then hadn't seen him for a while, started putting those videos out. And then I get a message on Facebook from him. Hey, man, how you doing? Been a while. Hope you're doing well. Hey, I really like the sounds you're doing. I like what you're going for. It's really cool. Could I hear more? I was like, yeah, man, I'd love to, share a song with you. Sure.
Hmm.
And and before that, my wife was checking me on all the writing. Like, this isn't going to be more band, because I had 2 other bands. This isn't going to be more band practices, is it? And I was like, no. This is just a record. I'm just writing my own record. I promise.
Right.
Dad duty, A1, 2 bands, no third band. I said, unless the only drummer that could do it would want to do it, and that's Bryan St. Pere. And if he wants to do it, then I'm doing a band. Just chuckled and went on about my business. And it was like a month or 2 later, that's when I got the message from him through Facebook. He's like, play, I want to hear more of your stuff. And so I'd send him like 5 songs, I think. And he's like, dude, this is really great. Like, I really, really like this a lot. I love your drumming. It was very complimentary and very sweet. And then that time went by, he wrote me again and he said, hey, do you want any help with anything? Is there any way I can help you facilitate what you're doing in any way? And I was like, I mean, I kind of got it. I mean, here's what I plan to do, make a record, but I mean, right. If you want to jam, I mean, let's hang out and jam. I would love that,
I'd love for you to play drums, man.
Yeah. And he knew I was a fan, because I think I played some hum riffs when I switched to guitar in the band that I had previously drummed in. He saw me go from drums to guitar in the band that we were gigging out in, okay. And so he was at the front of the stage when I think I played a couple of hum riffs, and he was like, yeah, it's really nice. And, so, hey, well, let's get together, let's hang out. And so I went to his house, and he sat at his drums in his living room, and I sat on my guitar rig and held my guitar, and we just talked for 4 hours. I played maybe 2 riff ideas, and then I played drums for him. He had me sit at his kit and play, and was the nicest, most welcoming, sweet, endearing person that you could ever meet. He was just absolutely one of a kind, and as kind as could be. And hey, let's do this again, maybe we'll jam more next time. Sure. So went back over there again, however long later, and another 4 or 5 hours of us just hanging out and talking music and drums and just connecting. Yeah. And right. He's like, so what do you want to do? I was like, I mean, do you just want to help me jam, or do you want to like start? We can start a band if you want with these songs. I don't know. What do you want to do? He's like, it'd be cool. Let's do that. And so we kind of bounced bass player ideas back and forth, and I had a few ideas here and there. And hey, there's these 2 guys. They're twins, Alex and James Walwork, and they're my kind of people, because when they play music, they're all in. There's no like, oh, I have to think here, I have to do this. Or it's like, just rabid beasts with it. Let go and go. And I love that tenacity and that gusto of just hanging it out there and going for it. And so he's like, we should get one of those Walwork guys. Like, they both play bass. I was like, yeah, they do. Because he would go to shows and supported the scene and was out seeing bands, and
yeah.
So I got a hold of him, and I was like, sent them a duplicate message on Facebook. Hey, I'm doing this project. This is who's playing drums. Would love to have either one of you guys involved if you want to be. And he even mentioned your name. So, whichever one of you is available, we'd love to see what happens. And Alex was like, oh, I'm the bass player. I'm there. and it's funny because Alex had written like 3 songs that he wrote. He's like, I'm right. He's very methodical in what he does. Like, this bass guitar is only for this band. This bass guitar is only for this band. That amp only goes with that bass for that band, because he's in a lot of bands. So he's very methodical in this, just in the feels,
Yeah. Okay.
And so he had written 3 songs if I was the drummer or Bryan was ever the drummer, because everybody, Bryan St. Pere lives here. How cool, he's part of the scene.
Sure.
And so he wrote one of them as Flying. That's on the record, and that was something he wrote for. And then we're both in the band together with him. So it's just this really weird. We had all wanted to jam together in a way years prior, and then there we were. Getting together. And so it just got together more. They learned the songs and didn't really, because I had demos, because it was a solo effort that I was on track to do. And so then I stopped that. I was like, oh, well, I'm doing this, then this is what I'm writing for now, All
right.
And so they just, I don't think Alex ever even listened to the demos. He's like, no, show me how it goes, and put himself in there. And same with Bryan, just really, they really embraced the song, and then just brought this whole life to it that it didn't previously have. So it just kind of boiled up from him writing me and going, hey man, let's hang out,
Yeah, that's awesome. So
really
with that being said, like, just kind of this background of how Amblare came to be, and so now it's a solidified 3-piece. I have this quote from Treble Zine magazine about Chavez. It's a quote from Clay Tarver. Clay says, I think AC/DC has that rule. Whatever song they do, only AC/DC could do that. We sort of had that vibe. We built this thing. We need to grow and change, of course, but it should only be what only Chavez can do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel similarly about Amblare, or your written works in general, considering, this kind of started as your writing project?
Yeah, there was some stuff that of mine that wouldn't jive, and I would show, hey Alex, check this new song I got. He's like, I don't know. Like if it didn't hit them, it wasn't worth doing. If they didn't love it, I didn't want to do it because I
Right.
was, hey, I checked this song out. What do you think? That's cool. I like it, but um, the songs that we did were everyone's favorites. I don't think that everything I had would have worked for that project. No, like some stuff just was not for Amblare. We were really moving towards creating together more because we wrote the song Mind in a room together. And I mean, nobody can do what Alex does. Nobody could do what Bryan does, and Alex is like, nobody can sing and play guitar like you. So, I mean, Amblare was special like that in that kind of way,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I think we'll talk about that a little later, but
Yep.
before we go there, so like I was saying before, not to get too dark, but
Mhm.
I was reading over your bio, and there's a
Mhm.
quote in your bio that's about your song Starlight.
Mhm.
So your quote says Starlight is about loving someone so deeply and intrinsically that telepathic, energetic communication beyond the grave is possible.
Mhm.
And obviously, you wrote that prior to Bryan's passing. I mean,
Mhm.
so does that song take on a different meaning for you now, or is it going to take effect as more of a tribute, do you think, or how do you feel about that?
That was actually really difficult because I wrote that for my kids. That's why my daughters are in the video we shot.
Hmm.
It's for my kids, and I actually have experienced that happen with people that aren't passed. And so there's a lot of talk about the sauce of DNA and a lot of the different fluids and things. They aren't sure what's what sometimes, and you get into the talk of ancestral DNA and these kinds of things.
Hmm.
And I think there's a piece of us, especially to a family member, and I think it's more possible to someone you share blood with. But
Sure.
you can certainly, if you can hold, the idea is that if you can hold someone's, I've heard it spoke about before, couldn't tell you where, I've just kind of grab things and keep walking. I don't go too deep with stuff. I like, oh, that feels nice. That feels nice. That makes sense. That doesn't. And that you can know someone's essence and see them. Like if you can hold someone in your head to the point that you can, that they're there and you can sense them even though they aren't, in a way that you can communicate with them from far away and not even know it.
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
everybody thinks, a lot of people think this stuff is empty, and to me this contains things, and they, quantum physics talks about it, and
Sure.
the string and all that. So I had it happen with my dad. I think I picked up a pedal, hadn't talked to him in a month or so, and I picked up this distortion pedal and blew the dust off, was cleaning my room. I was like, I forgot I had this, because it was called the Trike, and my dad's band was BF Trike that he was in, that did well. And so he had to buy it naturally. I had it,
Hmm.
I blew it off, and then 15, 20 minutes goes by and my phone rings. Oh, hey, that's fine. It's Dad. What's up, Dad? Hey, what are you doing? I'm cleaning my room, just kind of going through stuff. Hey, good. Do you happen to have that Trike distortion pedal of mine? Yeah, actually, I just picked it up and put it somewhere else about 15 minutes ago. He goes, I was sitting here watching TV, and out of nowhere, that popped in my mind. I was like, I need to try that again.
Right.
So, is there something there? Couldn't
Yeah.
tell you, but that's pretty weird. And I've had that happen, 3 or 4 times with people that I'm close with.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I love my kids. Who doesn't love their kids? I get that. I am insane about my kids. I love them so much, and I don't want them to ever not feel loved and safe and secure. And fatherhood means so much to me. And you know, we age, things fall apart. You get
Hmm.
older, and eventually you leave this planet, and nothing is worse than realizing that your kids can be there without you. Even at a young age. I mean, I could drop dead in 5 minutes. It can
Yeah.
happen at any second.
Right.
So very important then to know what's important and pay that due to that. So in my mind, I'm like, could I? Could they meditate to a level? I was thinking, could they meditate to a level that they can energetically hold my essence
Hmm.
inside them, and wherever, if energy goes somewhere, could they pull that in and communicate with it in some facet? don't know. But that's kind of where I was coming from. It was just kind of a heartbroken dad moment of, oh no, just in my
Yeah.
pajamas one night, and it's just kind of how I got the opening line, if you never ever even, and I was like, I just like the way that played off. If you never ever even, and I just started writing it from there, and just wrote it as like, oh, I can write about my kids coming up, and so it's just all about becoming a dad and making mistakes in your life, and the important thing is staying connected to them, and so I just had to write a song about it. So that's where it came from. So then, after Bryan passed, a lot of the lyrics took on different meaning, after he passed. So it's like, why not? Why not? You come to this life, I knew at an early age. I went to several great grandparent funerals when I was 2 and 3 and 4, and I can remember them like they were yesterday. And I could put myself right back there and smell the room. And so from a young age, I'm like, wait, this thing isn't forever. We don't get to keep doing this. There's a time limit. So, best get to accepting that. You might as well accept that you and people you love and anything alive that you love is going to die. And that's just a fact. So we can be afraid of it, and we can be scared and sad, or we can embrace the moment and just you just have an understanding that there's nothing you're going to do about that. So it exists,
Right.
So I think that we put an ugly face on death, and we stay so sad for good reason. You have
I think we're
grieve.
scared, I mean, I think
Yeah,
everyone's scared,
absolutely.
really.
We're terrified. And it's like, why be terrified? Why embrace staying scared? I'm going to embrace that I'm going to pass, and it's going to happen, and it's going to suck. So, get over itself, because heartache's horrible. So, I think that's a pretty way to paint death, that, maybe your energy you just become all the things, and people, oh, my mom has an owl that comes to visit her, and we think it's or we think it's dad, or maybe it's not exactly him, but maybe the energy that owl works on that we don't understand. Maybe that is a communicatory moment. I don't know,
Yeah.
But I love playing with
sure.
the what if of that, because you're going to die. So you might as well, I mean, yeah, I'm terrified too, but you might as well just, like, in the face of death. My mom passed away May of 2020 on my wife. No, and I didn't want to get that.
Oh, it's okay.
That, but I appreciate that. On our anniversary, my mom passed away, and so Bryan was not long after that. So I had back to back, tough times. Bryan was there for me when my mom passed, and was just, he would be kind of quiet when you could tell I was having a rough day, and he would chime in would say something that just like made things better. He was very eloquent with feelings, and giving you a hug in a way that's not a hug, that you just feel all right. So he was really there for me when my mom passed. And, a week after Bryan passed, my favorite cat passed. So it was just like back to back to back to back, just bad times. Yeah. Yeah. It was rough, but you have no choice but to be resilient, but even with my mom passing, I cry and tear up at so many things. But when my mom passed, I didn't cry for, a while, and I figured I'd be bawling,
Yeah. Weird.
But I don't know. I guess I'm trying to see the beauty in death more than the horrible part of death. And that song, Starlight, helps me embrace that. It's okay. It's all right. You came here to do it. You came here to live and proceed onward, wherever onward is, whether that's nothingness or somethingness,
Right. Now, so you were saying how, after Bryan's death, maybe some of the lyrics for these songs have taken on different meanings. And that's kind of what I got to with this record that we're talking about, Ride the Fader, is that, I mean, it's new to me. It's not like it's taking on a different meaning, but, this happens to me a lot, really. So I take on these conversations with people that I, sometimes know, sometimes I don't. But take this, important piece of music that is obviously important to them, do research on it and try to find out interesting things about it. But I sometimes make connections. And so, under the circumstance of where Amblare is and where you are at this moment in your life, Ride the Fader kind of, to me, as an outsider looking into it, I was just like, okay, there's a lot of weird meanings in here, and I know that it's subconscious for you. I know it's not it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with where you are at this moment because you heard this in '98 when you
Yeah.
were a young 20 something. You didn't think of any of these things, but
Yeah.
it just seems funny that now under these circumstances that we speak about this. This is where we are, and so this is kind of where I pull some of this information out of it. It kind of just like hits me like this. It's like, oh, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that this song kind of
Mm-hmm.
talks about this?
Hmm.
Um,
I love that.
even the
That's
metaphor.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, even the metaphor of the album title, Ride the
Hmm.
Fader. I mean,
Hmm.
we're musicians. Obviously, we've been in studios. We understand Ride the Fader is kind of like a technical term
Yep.
in music production, meaning
Yep.
to bring some kind of sonic harmony to a piece by uh, lowering and up, pushing up and down musical tracks, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
basically smooth things over
Hmm.
and trying to
Hmm.
reach some harmony,
Hmm.
essentially finding a balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you can think of that as maybe even an inner peace, if you're thinking of the grander metaphor of what this album is, maybe.
Hmm.
So, keeping this analogy in mind, I mean, like where you think you are at in the process in relation to your own life and musical fulfillment.
Meaning it, do I feel fulfilled in general at this time?
I mean, meaning like if music is your outlet and it's kind of like the way you find peace and joy,
Hmm.
like how much is that working for you now?
I've really slowed down with output and how much I do it. It doesn't happen as much. There's a lot. My room will get cluttered up, and because I don't even use it. I don't even come in here and do anything.
Hmm.
Um, Getting this set up in here and writing, starting in 2014 or whatever it was, I had just a long spurt where that's all I did, and I think I feel the pull more of fatherhood than I do the need to create a lot of the time. It's like I feel like I've had a long creative span. And so now I'm just kind of, I, I don't know. It's sometimes it just doesn't bring me joy. Sometimes it's just deeply frustrating. And I
Mm.
feel like I can't hit the point where I'm flowing like water and I'm out of the way and I'm a conduit and I'm not thinking like I'm thinking a lot more now. So it actually sometimes causes me more stress than it did. So I don't do it as much. And I'll even be like, I'm still working on a solo record and I've got 10 songs for it. And I've got, I think 3 that need vocals and a guy that doesn't rush the process unless it happened naturally. It hits. And I've had 2 songs that just hit me like, oh, that's how that needs to go. And I haven't even come in here to record it because I'm so content. Just daily life is heavy enough sometimes. And
Hmm.
I don't need to escape. And I don't need like, some days my kid smiles all the joy I need and I'm okay. Like I don't need music's embrace. I'm going to go play a show in on the drums in May with my heavy metal band, and we're gonna do the release show with Amblare. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do that, and I'm practicing for that. But for me in my room and creating, I don't feel the pull to need to do it right now. The I feel like I finally have put a fucking record out. You know what I mean? After this
Hmm.
10 years now of aiming for a solo thing. So I'm just like, oh, I can rest for a moment where I shouldn't be. I should be rocking and, getting stuff done. But
Right, right.
I'm enjoying time with my family and I finally have a job that I love. So I'm like actually content in daily life. Whereas before I was a truck driver and I was miserable and
Hmm.
when you're 300 miles away from your kid and the reality of if they break a leg, I can't be there, and just that terror of being in a truck. So I'm a happier person. It's like, so life, life has been so nice to where I can just go, I just have this weird, I don't need to do it right now. But there'll be a time when I'll, hit it hard again and do more. But
Yeah,
sometimes it feels like it's more trouble than it's worth. Sometimes I'm just like, who cares
sure.
what the fuck I put out? Like one of my jokes is that artists and musicians sometimes make me feel embarrassed to call myself an artist or a musician. You know what I mean? It's just I
Yeah.
don't feel the need to prove myself, though I really feel the need to relate to people. And I think music on a grand scale sometimes is so beside the point, and I like making music and saying things that are more to the point, that are more I think
Mm.
pop culture music empty and there's not a lot happening with it, especially nowadays. It's mostly, I don't know. It's just, I don't really force the hand, I don't feel the need to have to do it. It's not, it's who I am, but it's not really who I am. Right. I mean, what am I anyway? But I'm a musician, but it doesn't mean I have to always be doing it. I don't think that, I don't like a pragmatic approach. Like when the moment hits, music will go, time to go to work, time to go do something,
Right,
and
right. Yeah, you got to
if it
listen to the
doesn't, I don't
muse.
force it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And if I don't force it, and sometimes it's just not there. And then there's a day where I'll come in and I'm crazy productive and I'll write 6 riffs and lay drums down and bass for all of them and listen to it and go, I mean, I like it, but I don't need someone to tell me it's cool. And I don't really, it's just a weird thing, especially with social media presence. Like I feel weird about
Sure.
even promoting this record. It feels awkward sometimes. Like, it's
Yeah.
so, the,
I hear you. It's the I don't even know what to call it exactly, but it's like the dilemma of being an artist type,
mhm, mhm.
because it's like I've thought about that all the time. It's just like, why are we compelled to get up on a stage and play these fucking songs to whoever will listen? It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
it's a strange thing that we
Yeah.
do. It's just
Yeah.
like, I
It's
mean,
weird.
because like I don't think I'm an egomaniac, but
Yeah.
it's just like you have to have some ego to do this thing,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I used to get told a lot like, McGuyer's arrogant. I've always said there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And I'm
Sure.
confident, but I'm not like, hell yeah, man, you're right. I kick ass, bro. Just, it doesn't, that's gross. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah. Sure is.
Sometimes I get done playing and I'm embarrassed at whatever it is I just did, because I just, no control happens. I just go for it, So
Right.
it's like, oh yeah, I'm one of those people that makes the crazy drummer faces and all that. So
Sure.
sometimes I'm like, eh, eh. Such a awkward thing that's not. It's
Right.
so weird, man.
Okay. No, I hear you. It's a strange thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. But we've got it.
Well, and I think too, the order to, it's a chaos thing at the end of the day. A lot like making music is chaotic. I mean, all these ideas are coming at you and you're sorting them out. If you're really listening and going in and setting up 4 microphones and positioning and getting the phase. And that's just like, I'm already bored. I don't want to have to do. Like I bought a IR load box for my heads to plug in. So I didn't have, like, maybe if I remove a few variables, I'll be more inclined to make new music. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I got to set everything up and there's got to be room for this. Like all that, like checks and balances of getting everything ready. It's like, I've already lost interest. Like, I just
Mm.
want to walk in and go, blah, walk
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then it's not something that has to be a program or was that, how did that come through? Oh, and it's like it's almost its antithesis. It's creating the
Right.
art. Well, getting it recorded is the antithesis to the art sometimes. And
Mm.
but that's why people disappear into the woods, into a studio in a cabin, and someone else does it. So but
Right.
I'm not in that financial position, so I have to do it myself, and that makes it a long process.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
I hear you,
Mhm.
man.
Mhm.
All right. Well, listen, we should get into this record a little bit. Seeing as how resources were sparse, information was sparse. I don't have a lot to really talk about as
Mhm.
far as this record is concerned, and as far as these songs are concerned.
Mhm.
So as a matter of fact, I'm going to skip right to the second track on the album, "The Guard Attacks."
Mhm.
Couldn't say anything about Top Pocket Man. Sorry. Not that
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
not that it's not a good song. Obviously, the
Yeah.
intro is great.
Mhm.
Um, it's a great introduction for me, and obviously it was for you too. This was actually the
Mhm.
first record of theirs that you heard.
Mhm.
Um, but so what I found out about the Guard Attacks is that it may be lovingly referred to by the band as James Loathes.
Mm.
Yeah, a quote from an interview in Vice magazine states, "One time I spotted James Lowe at a bar and made him divulge as many Chavez secrets as I could pry out of him. He told me one of your songs had the working title James Loathes, but I had too much beer and I forgot which one it was." Matt Sweeney responds saying, "I think The Guard Attacks is the one of the songs James thinks is lame."
That's funny because it doesn't sound like it. you know.
No, I mean he
Yeah.
he performs well on it, and it doesn't sound like a boring song necessarily,
Mhm.
but for him at the time, Didn't not a big fan.
That's interesting. That strikes me as odd because of how, his the level of participation that he offers as a drummer just speaks other, like, oh, he sounds stoked, like he's loving going do 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 do. I mean, what a great beat anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I get it. That's a for a drummer. I mean, I could see that maybe because the beat switches two different ways, the backbeat becomes the forward beat as it goes through the transitions, you
Mm-hmm.
know. This the way that goes forward and then goes backward at times.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it was too much movement, but he seems really good at it.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why. Unfortunately, none of these band members seem to like to talk about this album specifically or these songs.
Interesting. That's interesting, man.
So I was just grabbing anything I could. I was just like,
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
about these songs would be great
Anything,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So let me move on to the next song.
hmm
Unreal is Here.
hmm
First thing I know about this is that it's played in a drop C tuning.
Mm. See, I always thought that everything. I thought everything was that drop A that they use, but this one's drop C.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just the E string that they tuned down because I know that
Yeah, I
I've
think they just dropped the E string to A. So it's like two A's, I believe, is what the
okay.
tuning was. Yeah, two A's and then a normal guitar from there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But that
I
one's in
really like
C.
this song actually. This
hmm
is a really catchy one, I think.
Yeah.
Or like the lyric, "Your unreal is here now,"
hmm
is what sticks out to me the most.
I love that he says, "There's nothing to not be amazed at." It's
Yeah.
just it's a great line,
There's
in
so many
general.
good lines.
So
Yeah.
many. Yeah, yeah.
But so your unreal is here now. What is your unreal now? Is it positive or negative?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is, life right now is bittersweet. I'm, like the moment I've always dreamed of is here. I've always dreamed of pressing music I had written on vinyl. I mean, who doesn't,
Yeah.
Like, wow, like holding your record. CDs are cool too,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
holding your record, having that pressed, this is, playing drums with I mean, Brian was my John Bonham at the end of the day. Like, I love John Bonham too, but like,
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, who's your top so and so? Well, all the greats, they're in a category that is aside from the list because my list starts, with what wasn't what we all. I mean, if you're a rock drummer, you don't like John Bonham, there's something fucking wrong with you. So that goes without saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's this unreal moment. Playing with a drummer who knows exactly what to do without knowing what to do because he's just being himself, because that's what I like. And I've always liked, a heavy
Yeah.
handed drummer who's not afraid to just fucking go after it.
Right.
And Alex, I've searched ever since I started writing. I had a bass, not really, like I didn't know what I want out of a bass player, but I knew I'd know it when I heard it. And so
Mm.
I walked in a store and heard Alex playing. I was like, I didn't know him as he's this young cat, and someday I have to play music. I want to write music with that guy, but I don't know him. So hopefully it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen,
Yeah.
and so this is everything I ever hoped for. I mean, I've always wanted to put a record out, and I've always wanted to find a drummer that just knew what to do, and you didn't have to talk about it. It just happened, and you go, holy shit, yeah, there it is, and here's this record. The Unreal is here now, but and it's horrible because Brian's not here,
Right.
because he loved it as much as we do. He loved it. He was unabashed in talking about how much it meant to him, and I mean, his kids know how much it meant to him. They've been his daughter Ava has been very supportive for us doing this, which that's all I care about at the end of the day, is that his kids are happy about it.
Hmm.
Of course I want everyone to be, especially fans, like, yeah, it's great to
Right.
hear him drum again, but it's the most amazing moment with the most heavy amount of bittersweet you could ever have.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, the Unreal is here now, and it's kind of horrible in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean, because
quite
it's
quite
it's
horrible.
it's not the way that you imagined it. I mean, like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
this is the Unreal is here now, and that's an awesome thing because you got to play with one of your idols. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's like how many people can say they get to do that, really?
And to become friends, to realize that not only do him and I have so much in common where we come from with drumming, that we became really good friends. We would talk about things, and he'd be like, yeah, something mental, perplexing, whatever it might be, that someone could go through, he would share something, and man, it's funny you're talking about that, because the song Weekend that we're playing is about that. And we would have conversations about things, and I could point at one of the songs that we're playing, go, hey, what you're talking about is Iridescence. That's what that's about. And I explained, he was like, huh, really? So it was just really very magical, kind of wild thing. It's like, I never believed in magic till this happened, because of how many lines were already drawn between us, and we had just gotten together, that Alex had wrote songs just to play in a band with us too. And, and here's my favorite drummer of all time. And it's like, oh, yo, we're like soul brothers, man. Like we have so many heavy, deep things in common,
Mm-hmm.
cause I'm neurotic and I'm a mixed bag, I'm always overexcited, and Bryan would get pumped up with me, and you'd come over and he'd be like, oh, I got this new thing for the house. You got to check this out. Sorry, but you got to see it. I was like, no. Like, yeah, show me the new thing, So,
Yeah.
So to make music that I love so much, that was so heavy for me, Starlight being, about my kids and how much I love them. And he's the same way about his kids, just, all about his kids, man. And so we had, that fatherhood in common, and yeah, it was really amazing, because it felt like life was making sense. It's like, oh, this is all making sense. Like all this time leading up to this is all for this, like everything that I have done as a musician was preparing me for this moment of playing in a band that everything just fit like a glove,
Right.
Like the first time we jammed, he played so amazingly. I couldn't even play guitar. I was too blown away. I was like, I was messing up terribly. I'm like, sorry guys, I can't believe this sounds like this. It sounds better than I had hoped, and they're like, oh no, you're good, man.
Right. That's cool, man. Well, look, I want to keep on moving down, and we're going to kind of embellish on that a little bit more, I think. I'm going to skip a couple of songs, unfortunately. I'm going to move down to Lions. So the lyric for Lions says, after all this, something good has got to happen. Sleep with the Lions. So again, this album is speaking to me about you, like through your
wild
suggestion. Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah.
So I mean, is the lyric that's the lyric that sticks out to me. But after all this, something good has got to happen. So I mean, what are you hopeful for at this point with Amblare?
To be able to relate with strangers, to me, is a big thing. Like human connection is a huge thing for me. So be great to hear from people that are like, oh, I identify with this, I identify with that. That's great. I love that too. But for me, the biggest thing is it's awesome music with a really great drummer that we didn't think we were going to hear from again, and I just hope that people see it more as we had one person comment, I think it was on Reddit, and somebody commented and said, man, this is like a gift. I love his drumming so much. This is like a gift. So thank you for doing this. That's my biggest hope, was that it was just his kids being like, oh, great, this is happening. You know what I mean? That's really the only thing I want to be able to check. That was really a goal, was to put it out and people be happy that it's out. Cause it's not something we're doing for money or recognition. It's like he wanted it out there, so we're putting it out there. And so all I can hope for is that people see it as a moment to go, oh, nice, we get to hear him drum some more. You know what I mean? Because that's my biggest takeaway, is it's like, listen to that, feel there. And it's just, he did some really badass shit. You know what I mean? So it's like more of his amazing drumming. It's like, who doesn't want to hear, who wouldn't want to hear more Jimi Hendrix? You know what I mean?
Sure. Right.
Who wouldn't want to hear more of people that don't make music or can't make music? Who wouldn't want another Prince record? And his importance as a musician for me is as great as any of the best of all times.
Yeah.
And so to have that, like, we can hear him express himself. He had a quote that I really love, and I don't remember it verbatim because I just try not to go backwards, but it was on a podcast. He mentioned, basically, when you hear my music, you're talking, you hear me, that's, me deeper than anything by hearing my music, essentially.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So the fact that we can go, there's more, is real. Plus he's doing like some 5/4 drumming, and he's, was doing some light-handed stuff that you normally didn't hear him play. So it's like, it's special in that. So that's really the only takeaway, that I hope people are like, hey, thanks for throwing that out there. Appreciate it, and
right.
Buy a record, great. Don't buy a record, great. The important thing is that it's out there. We could have just dropped it out there and to the abyss and not said a word about it. But so it's a weird line to toe to promote something in this fashion. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like we have to promote it because you're fighting algorithms and getting visibility is difficult. But we only want people that would go, oh shit, more Bryan drumming to get to. We just want it to get to them. You know, we just want his fans to be like, cool, we got some more. You know?
Right. Right.
So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
that's very noble. I mean, if I'll save it for the end to talk
Okay.
about that. But
Okay. Absolutely.
let's skip down to another song. We're gonna skip over Our Boys Will Shine Tonight. Memorize This Face.
It's funny you skipped over that one because I was worried I ripped that song off on this record.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I wrote the vocals for the song Undivided. Is very close to almost one of the lines in that song. And I was always like,
Oh, weird.
why does this sound like something I've heard? Because you do that when you're expressing yourself. Like
Sure.
you'll pull an influence, not realize it. And then you get the chance that people go, do you like Chavez? You can go, actually, I do. Cool, you caught that,
Yeah.
But I was, like, well, I'm just going to go with it because I like it. And if anyone says that's too close, be like, by accident, just that.
No one knows Chavez. It doesn't matter. Just gotta take it.
Everybody
But that's actually what I was going to ask you about. So memorize this face. I feel like lyrically these songs have cohesive moments, but then they get ahead of themselves or consciously pivot from direction, from like whatever direction the lyric is taking. Like maybe even just playing with rhyme schemes and wordplay, stuff like that. Like in this song, there are some great lines, and we've already mentioned how some of the other songs had to have just like some great lines, but then there's something in the middle that just kind of breaks it up and kind of like makes it doesn't make it like so cohesive. It doesn't make it like it's not an obvious statement that they're trying to make. So in this song, there's lyrics like "Better days will haunt you" and "Time wounds all heals," which I think is pretty great
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so lyrically, where do you find inspiration aside from
Experience.
Chavez and stealing them off? Ripping
Yeah,
them
yeah,
off. Yeah.
totally ripping off that melody line. Yeah. Life struggles, like what's difficult about being alive, that is in all people. You know what I mean? Like what
Hmm.
it's fun. It's so fun for me to read about anything anyone experiences and or even just something as silly as a meme or a video on social media that, oh, we all do this. And you're like, what? I didn't think anybody did that too. We're all, it's like we're all heading to the same endpoint through whatever variables need to take place to condition us for that endpoint. Like we're all heading the same way.
Mm.
So art to me is important. I love that, we go, the artist goes diving into the human experience, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, all these different things that our minds do and can do and report back, bring back something from there. And that's not necessarily a goal for me. I just try to put into words something I'm feeling or experiencing in hopes that it will make that happen more often, that people, whoever finds the record will listen and go, damn, me too, man. That hits me here, even if it's not what it's about,
Hmm.
that connection in relation to one another. The more that happens, the more we can all as a population be on the same page and, change the course of the world away from hatred and all these types of things, and acceptance
Mm.
and love and unconditional love and understand what true empathy is and humility and being humble and kind. And we all struggle with those depending upon the moment and what's happening within them. But the more that, I think that's the reason that I keep doing this, is that maybe my lame ass brain will have something informative for a person that's struggling. I don't know, but all I can do
Mm.
is throw it out there. So that
Right.
that in the end is the greatest thing. It's just connecting people with people.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what music
cool.
is. Like, man, I love that you love that record. That means so much to me that it means that to you, because me too. And even just that is, it's a beautiful thing. The more that we can relate, the more that we can understand, and the more that we can accept people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
guess
sounds
that's,
great.
yeah,
We're gonna get a little silly now.
like silly.
We're gonna move down to the song Flight 96.
See, your name and song titles. I'm like, okay, wait, which one is that? Do I need to grab my phone and listen to it?
I can play it for you if you want. Yeah, great song. But
Ah,
did you know that Flight
yeah.
96 is a real thing?
Maybe in my subconscious I recall it, but no, not right
So
now.
so I'm not sure if the song actually depicts anything about this, but it's a kind of famous plane crash.
That's why I say maybe it's in my subconscious, that
Yeah,
maybe I
yeah.
have heard of this. I'm just not. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a weird like thing. I mean, like so I'm to name the song Flight 96, uh, but then the song doesn't really seem to pertain to anything like it.
hmm
You know, I mean, like lyrically, I don't think that there's anything there. I really don't.
hmm hmm
But like, what a funny, weird thing to just bring attention to, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. If you're not even referencing it lyrically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or something about it, something
Yeah.
that references like, what like a tragedy
hmm
or even if it was like chaotic. If the song was like truly chaotic, like it gets a little messy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, but so all I can think is well, what has been one of your most terrifying moments?
My most terrifying moments.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's an intense question, man. Within what context? Just like life terrifying
Scary.
moments?
Yeah. Something that scared the shit out of you.
Oh, every day scares the shit out of me.
Me, it's getting the call about one of the kids dying.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that's
that's
for sure.
terrifying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is the worst thing that could ever happen, indeed. And
Right.
you have that. I'm sure you have it too, which is another wonderful thing about conversation. I think most parents do, where you have that mom dad anxiety that all the myriad of things that could happen to your kid are in the back of your mind. So when you like don't hear them, oh, they could have just fell off of here and they're not breathing, and I better run up there. And that
Yeah.
panic of like, well, perfect example, which is funny. We went to a wedding last night, my wife and I, and my youngest daughter, Opal, and she loves to dance. So she's on that dance floor. Me and mom, we watch because if we ain't feeling it, we got to drink to dance. That's just the way it goes. And we're not big drinkers.
Sure.
We're not really partiers. And so she's having a great time. And we keep our eye on her because the world's pretty fucking weird these days.
Hmm.
And we're watching her and she's having a great time. We're at this wedding. Everybody's having a blast. She knows the bride, so she's in good hands. And there's just a point where we didn't see her. We walked all through the place and she was not there, so we're like, oh my God, we got to look closer. And we had walked right by her and looking for her. She was at the off to the side in front of the bridal party table, hunkered down, drawing in a ball. So the shadow of the table dressing hanging over, she was in that shadow, so you couldn't see her, and she was wearing all black.
Hmm.
And so we could no one could even see her until we asked the bride. And the bride's like, okay, well, there's my stepdaughter, and they're together. And then she looks over, and then Opal put her head up right then, and there she was. But for a split second, we thought for sure someone took her and she was gone. And
Oh,
it's the worst feeling in the world.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's
Scary.
no, thank you. Like I always say, if I can stay alive and be healthy, and if my kids make it to 18 and we don't have to experience the horrible things that happen in this world, from cancer to kids getting taken, all of it. If we make it to 18 and that happens, I mean, fuck the lottery, fuck money. Like that is, I'm the richest guy in the world at that point,
Right.
like then if I'm alive to see them into their 20s and they find their life mate or don't, or become whatever it is they become, like it's like, oh, I got to be here for that. You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna wrap it up with the next song, Ever Oversight.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, You Must Be Stopped is a very big one for you, but I got nothing for it.
One of my favorite things about this record is that they did foreshadowing, and then whatever the opposite of foreshadowing is. Excuse me for not knowing what the word, but when you you hear
Post shadowing.
yeah, that's what I mean, post shadowing.
It's after shadowing. I don't know.
I love there's a xylophone that plays the vocal melody of
Hmm.
one of the songs before the song ever comes. It's in between
Oh,
the
okay.
songs, and you hear I can't remember what song it is right now. And there's a and before, like two songs before it comes, that's happening. And so then
Okay.
there's a piano moment before this song where you hear the drum beat that's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
later or just happened. And then eventually that same drum sound joins in at the end of this with just, this basic beat. Just
Right.
that character, whatever, whoever was like, it's like, did it happen accidentally? He was like, let's do this weird thing where we set up songs and we mention them again later. And there's just this weird, like, for lack of better thought, Pulp Fiction style songwriting where you're like mentioning different points of the record. It could
Oh
be at any
yeah.
time. I just
That's
think that's
wonderful.
brilliant. Just tying that all together and just what it does to the brain. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, ever oversight, the title says it all.
Hmm.
So all I have to ask for you is, are you oversight for the new release coming out to the world?
Yeah, I'm always oversight when something's going to happen musically because I mean, it's what I'm here for. I'm here for a lot of things, but music is who I am. So the fact that people are going to hear for the first time, me express myself, that's an exciting thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm psyched about that. That I hope to talk to people that hope it touches people in a positive manner. I just hope it's all a positive takeaway, despite heavy, possible dark, and sometimes maybe even negative pre-thought to trying to put the positivity in. Because a lot of the
right.
songwriting I do, I touch on the bad, and then the bridge to the good, and then maybe the celebratory moment of the good, if possible, whether that's sonically or musically. So I am I am elated that this is going to see the light of day. It was a 3.5 year three and a half year process. So to get to
Right.
share it with people, to put it out there, it's I mean, I wrote a song for my babies and everybody gets to hear it. That's pretty cool. Whoever wants to hear it can hear it. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's really, really fun. I'm in love with the way it sounds amazing. When I listen to it every time, I just the guy that mixed it, mastered it, just it's just a dream come true.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
This moment is it's a it's a it's a very important hip in life. I mean, like it's a turning point for me because it's finally something I put so much of myself into with someone that I grew to love and know, two people. And I mean, Alex, I love Alex to death. We were three close friends that, three musicians that became close friends through that relation of creating music and making music together. We just the three of us felt like we found a new home playing music that we had always hoped for and didn't know was going to exist.
Right.
It
Right.
just was all like planets aligned. It was just from what Bryan would have to say about it, what Alex had to say about where we were all at and how we came together was just really a beautiful thing because we just related on such a deep and heavy level experientially as humans living life. We just
Right.
like had a lot in common. So to make music was like, was magical. It was really a magical thing. And we all felt that way. We would play a
Yeah.
song and, we would, God, that's like my favorite one to play, but I don't know, this one's my favorite too. Yeah, I like playing that one too. So we were very thankful
Yeah.
to be making music together and to have somebody that you look up to be stoked to be making music with you is like it's amazing.
I
It's
mean,
a,
it's
it's a lot.
it's like finding your life partner. It's just like,
Yeah.
what are the chances that you get to be in this symbiotic relationship with people that's actually not only gratifying on a artistic level, like on a creative level,
Hmm.
but emotionally speaking, like you guys are good friends as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, and then
So,
that hums the hum. I have a really nice vintage guitar that has two signatures on it. It's got Ken Andrews from Failures signature on it, and Matt Talbot from Hum's signature on it. Because those two bands are the reason I started writing music. And was like, no, I can do this, and what
oh
I'm hearing, it has a place. Like
yeah,
I think it would be appreciated. We should, it's a worthy quest, as Bryan would say.
yeah, yeah,
And so they're the reason that I even was like, I'm going to write songs, I'm going to do this, was hearing that Hum record. Honestly, it was just like, continue, make music, yes, write
yeah, yeah.
songs. It was pretty
Speaking of
heavy
Matt
stuff.
Talbot, didn't he? Wasn't he the one that recorded this record,
Mhm.
was he the one that mixed and mastered it?
No, he engineered, and
Okay.
James Treichler assistant engineered when Matt couldn't, because Matt has his own place next to the studio. That's a really awesome small bar called the Loose Cobra. And so he's like, got to go 10 bar guys. So James would engineer. And then when we didn't have anybody, Matt trusted us to run the tape machine ourselves, doing some overdubs and things. Like Bryan would hit record and then come running out of the control room, down to the drums. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
he engineered and was like, sounds good, guy. I was just there with us through the whole thing.
that's cool. Wow. So you
Yeah, it
got to
was way
work
cool.
with another one of your idols.
Yeah, that was when I went in to do lyrics and vocal. Like I think he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. The way the pictures he paints and the things he has to say, just I mean, I identify with them, and they make sense to me and they feel good to me. And to have him there when I was tracking vocals was kind of nerve wracking because I really look up to him as an artist, as a musician, as an artist, as a person. He's very well collected and he's nice and he's funny and just a heck of a guy to be around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so now tell me about this record. I know it's being pressed. I can't remember the name of the company that's putting it out.
Mhm.
What is the name of that company?
Sorry, I was thinking about. I should have mentioned Mario Quintero is who mixed and mastered that from
Oh, okay.
Spotlights. Yeah, Mario's doing a lot of records, and he's the one that mixed and mastered. But Melodic Virtue is who's putting it out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right, right. And so they're doing a actually vinyl release. Can you tell me about the packaging of that vinyl record, like what it might look like?
Well, it's the guy that is Melodic Virtue, Aaron Tanner. At the end of the day, I don't really know what I'm doing. I can make a record and I can find someone to mix it, master it, and record it. But what to do after that, couldn't tell you, because I've never gotten lucky enough to really get there
Right.
in the shoes of being even a songwriter. So I didn't really know what I was doing. So Aaron, him and I have a band. It's really his project that I get to drum in called Off Ox, and he writes for that. So we knew each other in a creative situation and then became good, close friends. And he's always said, hey, I'm always down to help out my friends. So if you ever need help, let me know. So I
Hmm.
was like, hey, dude, I don't know the first thing to do about this, and he's like, so he did, he did the art. It's reverse board jacket on it. So you can actually fill the paper, it's not glossy. It has a whole tactile
Oh,
thing. We really
cool.
want to do 180 gram on it. We really wanted to have that good quality vinyl. Not that 160 is bad, but we're like, let's do this on 180. Let's do it right. But the press broke down as they were about to start pressing.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they're like, well, we can do 160. I was like, that's fine. So simple. It's got
Yep.
a cool collage in there, and it's kind of fun because being that it's reverse board, it's slippery on slippery, so you don't have to fight to get the inner sleeve back in. It's like a nice
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about the vinyl? Is it going to just be black vinyl?
it's just black. Yeah, just black.
Okay.
Brian liked black vinyl. He used to say that the color drum kit he played was because it looked like a vinyl record. He's like, looks like a record, right? I was like, yeah, it does. So black vinyl is the only way to go.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
otherwise it's just flashy.
yeah. Some people say you can hear a difference
No,
between colored and black, but the
those
upcharge
people
for
are
color,
full of
honestly,
shit.
we press the record ourselves. This is something Alex and I have done all this financially, just the two of us.
Yeah.
And and Aaron facilitated, helped, guided, and those kinds of things. And it's like, yeah, I'll put it out under my thing, and just something he doesn't put records out all the time. It's just something he does for fun. Like if he's like, that sounds cool, I'll do that. He'll
Yeah.
do it. So he's like, I got you guys. So he's been a lot of help. He's been
Yeah.
wonderful to us and really, really taking care of a lot of things and helping us make the right decisions and understanding the lay of the land in the first place. So he's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Sure.
virtue has been a big blessing for this, because without him, it would have just been a really lame post on a terribly put together, social media page going, here it is. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah.
how, and then you got to promote it. Like I said, it feels silly to promote it, but it's like,
Right. Right.
it's owed that, I mean,
Yeah, for
it should
sure.
be, done that way. If Brian was here, he'd be blabbing about it too. He was stoked
Right.
for it. So
Yeah.
we have to promote it. So then how do you promote it? So it's been very nerve-wracking, very difficult, very,
Mm.
very, very hard, very fun. It's just ran the gambit of
Yeah.
all the emotions.
So
If
now
he was here, he'd be pumped.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so the question I've been avoiding this whole time is just like, so where do you go from here? I mean, like, losing Brian obviously was a major blow to the band as a band, but I mean, you're still going to be doing a release party for it, so you're performing the material.
Yep.
I don't think you want to mention a drummer, right?
Oh,
Because
no,
like
I'm
in your
happy to
bio,
mention.
it says that you're looking for somebody to fill in.
Yeah, and we got a close friend that's going to do it. His name's Andrew. He's a great drummer, and he was somebody that Brian saw him play one time and was really liked his drumming and was like, wow, like you were, what he say the other day, Brian said to him, man, you were really playing teeter totter with that ride back there, man, but you pulled through, and it was cracked, and I'm keep up in this thing. It was cracked and just completely destroyed because he's a basher. And
Mhm.
I remember Brian going, I saw this kid play the drums, man, and he's really awesome. It's like, oh yeah, who's that? And we started talking about it. He's like, I think I'm gonna give him a ride because his ride was destroyed. So he like gave the dude a ride. It was like, hey, keep rocking, dude. Here you go,
Right.
And so that's who's drumming with us. His name's Andrew Fender. And
Okay.
so, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to play. I just wanted to put it out, give it its due, honor it the proper way. And just, that's it, here it is. Enjoy, and
Right.
that's it. No more Amblare, obviously. It can't be Amblare without Bryan. There's no way to say, hey, we are Amblare. So Amblare is me and Alex while we, um, Bryan would say, and I can say without a doubt, why are you not rocking the community with the rock? Like, you should be, go play, fucking dummies, like, go play. He would be pissed if we didn't do it. So
Hmm.
over the last, 2022 all the way to now has been, nah, we won't, no, no, no. And then maybe, could be cool, could be fun. Who do we get? I don't know, not possible. So, we've slowly worked through it. And once we got to, okay, it's being pressed right now. Like, Alex was like, I want to do it. Because I've kind of been on the fence, me personally, just because drumming for me is, it has to be done right. It has to
Yeah.
be done a certain way, especially with as stylistically as Bryan played on this one and does play in general. It's not, you can mimic Phil Rudd from AC/DC, you know what I mean? You can
Sure.
mimic a lot of drummers. You can't mimic somebody that's, you know, swinging from the trapeze above the rushing waters and riding the waves and just letting it happen. There's a thing, there's so much personality in that. How do you duplicate that? So me being on the fence, I was fine doing it if that's what Alex wanted. I love him and I will honor what he wants. And he's like, hey, I want to do it. So I think
Right.
this guy can do it. I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. Got together and it was okay. And then we got
Yeah.
together a second time and then like, oh, wow, like he's really doing it proper, So
Oh, good.
yeah, so we're gonna do a release show because we felt like Bryan would want us to, if people you want to see us play and like, hey, come play here, we'll go play, but we're not going to be like, let's book a tour, let's chase the thing. Like if somebody's like, hey, come open for us, hell yeah, we'll go do that, because we want to honor the release, of some sort of cycle,
Right.
there won't be anything else. I mean, we're going to honor this. We're going to do this release show. If no one asks us to come play, that's it. There's no more Amblare. Amblare is me and Alex, and there won't be any more writing. Though there's no more Amblare after this. So it's just
Yeah.
like, let's honor this any way that it comes at us. If somebody that we really like or never heard of is like, hey, we're doing this tour, we'd love to have you guys on for a week, we would absolutely do that, but we're not chasing anything, we just wanted
Right.
to honor the record, honor Bryan. So it's coming out on April 5th, and April the 2nd is his birthday, so it's like our birthday present to Bryan,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, so that's why we chose that date, to get as close to his birthday as we could. And that's it, so if someone
Okay.
says come tour for a month, we'll try to do it. But if nobody
Yeah.
wants to see it, we're not going to be like, we got to play shows, bro.
Right. Right. I
So
hear you.
we may play locally in Evansville a few times if we get asked, but it's just all where the interest is. If people are interested, we'll be there.
Sure.
And after, once that all dies down, if anything kicks up, then that's it. That's the end of it. So it's,
Okay.
if the three of us who are trying to honor these songs decide we want to write and keep a band going, it'll be called something else entirely, and we'll just start anew from there. Or maybe I
Hmm.
can sweet talk them into playing on my solo shit. So I don't know, whatever. Don't tell them what'll happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as
Right.
Amblare goes, this is it. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and you're keeping yourself busy anyway. I mean, like I totally didn't even mention it at all, and I really wanted to. Is that like you're actually playing with Mock Orange now?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that's cool.
Yeah, way cool. Good friends of mine that I grew up with. Um, they've inspired me so much, seeing your local homeboys get out there and, play fucking Japan 8 times and, get recognition
Yeah.
for their work, as they should be. Ryan, I met Ryan when I think we were 16 ish and made music together. I think we played Milk Toast by Helmet the
Helmet.
first time we
Okay.
hung out. Yeah.
All right.
And we play Smashing Pumpkin songs. And so I knew Heath and I, his band and my band would play shows together back in the 90s. And so I knew the guys, and they asked me to come give him a hand. So I
Huh.
did. Like, they wanted to honor the release, the 20-year reunion of the record Play. So that's why I was brought on board too, because they had a tour planned to support it.
Oh,
And
okay.
they needed a guitar, their original guitar player they had parted ways with, and they asked me to fill the shoes. And I honestly was like, I don't think I can play you guys' stuff. It's beyond my knowledge. You're making a normal barred F chord with the thumb. I can't do that. Like my hands don't work that way. My hands go smack or drop D. And
Yeah.
so I just, you know, I'll try. And so I did. And then I think the last person I talked to, and the best thing I could come up with that when people ask, oh, you play with Mock Orange? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not like, I appreciate people like, oh, you're in Mock Orange. Like, yeah, I just like get to show up and like they built the car, they picked the color, they put the motor in, they redid everything. I
Right.
just get to ride in it or sometimes drive the car. Like these four
Yeah.
guys, they built that's their work and their hard earned,
Right.
notoriety or whatever. Like to be able to just join them and play is like it's cool because they're old friends. Like
Yeah, that's great.
the bass player was 11 when he first hit the scene playing punk. So it's like I've seen him grow up. So it's like
Oh man,
he's
I saw him play. I saw Mock Orange play. Actually, I think it was in Evanston. I was on tour with an old band of mine, and it was
Evansville.
Evansville.
Where I'm at is Evansville. Yeah.
Evansville, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I have
Yeah.
no I honestly don't even remember, but I was just
Yeah.
like the drummer of my band was a fan of Mock Orange and he was just like, "Holy shit, they're playing here?" He's just like, "We got to go." I'm like, "Okay." So we went and yeah, it was the only time I've ever seen them and that bass player really made an impression on me because I was just like, "He's cool. He's cool as shit." Like he's a
Yeah.
really good player and he's like actually, he's actually performing.
Yeah.
Like most bass players, they just kind of, sit back and just
Yeah.
do the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. What do you know about what year that was?
It could have been it could have been 2001 or 2.
I was because there's a transition there. They had their original bass player was with them for the record play, and then I think not long after that came out, they picked up Zach, who's been with them ever since. So I
Oh,
can't remember
okay.
which one you saw, but both, yeah, both great bass players. But Zach is definitely lively on stage. Like
Okay.
he's rocking out, and yeah, he was way. The other guy was way more the bass player, just kind of staring, and then he was more physical. So you probably saw Zach, and
Okay,
yeah,
maybe it was Zach then. Yeah.
he has a solo record that's quite excellent. Zachary Thompson Grace, is that his? Sorry, Zach, if you listen to this and I got your fucking middle name. I'm trying to remember his middle name. I'm terrible with names anyway.
All right, that's all
But
right.
anyway, it's under his name, but it's really excellent. He did everything on that himself. I think he played drums and did everything. And
No,
he's a monster of a musician indeed. Yeah, very
cool.
inspiring for me to watch too, just because him and Ryan are wizards when it comes to bass parts. They do really cool shit for the Mock Orange song. I think the bass guitar work in the records is some of the most amazing, thoughtful bass playing I think I've ever heard. It's just
Hmm.
it's the thing that weaves everything together, in
Yeah.
and out of octaves and fifths and giving everything a weird, always making your head do that, it's cool.
Right. So, I mean, do you see this or do you know if like you're going to be a permanent member? Like, do you think that this is that a permanent residence for you now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the band,
So you're
as
going to
far
write with
as
them in the future?
there's been talk of it, they kind of, I think they're kind of just kind of hanging out, enjoying a break for a minute,
Right.
you never know. Ryan could call me tomorrow and go, hey, I've got these 5 songs. And I know there's a couple of things that have been played for me and got any ideas, but I'm so bad because I just can't multitask anyway. If I was to write something down or read something talking to you, I'd have to like, hang on. Okay. So that even happens musically, so
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm focused on this right now, so I can't focus on that, but I hope something happens. I think there's a lot more music. There's always more music in Ryan and Heath, the three of them, the way they play and work together. I mean, I hope they want to write more, and I'm sure I'll be here for it if that happens, and I sure hope it does because I have a great time with them. I love playing the guitar. I just love playing. If I could be in enough bands to be always playing music, I would be happy. Like I
Yeah.
would, I'd anybody wants to make music, great, let's make music. You know what I mean? I'm always hoping people are like, hey, you want to do something? Hell yeah, I'll take 8 bands, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You got to run that by the wife though. I don't know.
yeah, 4 is enough right now because I've got my heavy metal band, Mock Orange. We're getting ready to start Off Hawks back up, plus the Amblare thing, and then I'm still working on my solo stuff. So
Right.
it's
Well, it's got a lot. You got a lot on
I
your
would
plate,
love
man.
to. Yeah, I'd love to be touring playing drums. I can say that because I love to play so much, and I don't think my body's gonna be able to do it a whole lot longer unless I change my ways and play a
Yeah.
little lighter.
Hey, who
Arthritis
knows?
is real.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
bet.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, cool. I just had to get that in. All right, because
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, totally. It's such a great band. I mean, yeah.
yeah,
I can't believe when I see my name and I see Mock Orange, I'm like, that's just crazy because I watched them all grow up and do the thing. We all grew up together. So I've always been on the sidelines going, yeah, yeah. So to be like, hey, going with him, it's a good time.
yeah. Oh, I bet, man. That sounds great.
It's made me a much better musician. That's for sure.
That's always a plus,
Yeah. Yeah.
challenge
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're great too. If you're in the room jamming and you miss a lick because you had a brain fart, they'll stop and go, "You okay? Yep. Yeah, I'm good. You got it? Got it. Go again. Go again. It's like get it till it's right, and I love that. I love that about them. They're
Oh, okay. Militant.
you,
That's yeah, it's a little
not so
scary.
much militant, just very like what you're playing because I was new to it. So
Yeah.
it's and they would stop each other. Hey, did you play this there or that there? What did you sing there? Like they give a shit a lot. Like there's not like, oh, we'll catch that mistake next time. No, like what goes there, right? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary being the new guy. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm still out of my league with those guys, man. That's just Joe, who was the guy that, I replaced or whatever. I have always looked up to his playing and he's got the Jimi Hendrix fingers. He can just play a fucking guitar and what he comes up with is again super one of a kind, very original. So
Yeah.
those are tough shoes to fill, but I respect the shit out of trying to fill those shoes while doing it. So it's a lot of fun to challenge myself to play some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool, man.
yeah, man.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, best of luck to you with
Thank you,
all the things, all the projects.
thank you, thank you. I
And
appreciate that very much.
yeah, no problem at all, man. It's a great record, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I have listened to it in its entirety, and so it's going to be a great tribute to Bryan, if nothing else. And so I hope it reaches all the people.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it so much, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man.